Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we are going to be counting down the top 10 movies that need to come to physical media that right now are only available on streaming services. As a physical media collector, it is very frustrating to have a movie come out on a streaming service that you absolutely love, and just knowing that one day it will never come to physical media. It is a very disappointing thing. Now, there have been some physical media services like Netflix who have actually released some of their movies on physical media, mainly through the Criterion collection, like Roma, Marriage Story, and Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. So they have teamed up with some physical media studios in the past, but a lot of their best movies are still stuck on streaming services. We have seen Shudder send some of their movies out and some of their TV shows, like Cursed Films, or in last year's Skinamarink did get a Blu-ray release. Prime Video will also release a lot of their movies physically. They also like to release a lot of their movies in theaters, so of course Amazon will actually give us the physical media releases as well, and plus movies like last year's Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon, which are Apple TV Plus movies, but they were also co-financed through Napoleon with Sony, and Killers of the Flower Moon was co-financed by Paramount. So eventually I assume those movies will get physical media releases, so you won't see those films on this list, but we are going to count down the top 10 movies that need to come to physical media that are stuck on streaming, and I'm not going to waste your time. We're going to start it off right now with number 10, 2016's Hush. This was directed by Mike Flanagan, and this you actually can't even find on Netflix right now. It's been pulled off of Netflix. Mike Flanagan said they only had a 7-year deal with Netflix, and right now they're actually searching for a physical media partner to release this film physically. But it's very strange that they actually pulled this movie because this was a Netflix exclusive horror film. Mike Flanagan, one of my favorite working horror directors today, has a great working relationship with Netflix. He's released a bunch of miniseries through there. He's done all the Haunting of Hill Houses, Haunting of Bly Manor. He even did last year's The Fall of the House of Usher. That was a great miniseries, but for some reason, a couple of his movies that have come right to Netflix. Gerald's Game is another one that's gone right to Netflix. Hush was a fantastic film in 2016. It starred his real-life wife and regular working partner Katie Siegel, and she does a great job in this movie. It's a one-location horror film. You know, Katie Siegel plays a deaf person, so she can't hear outside or anything like that. You know, she lives in like a cabin kind of in the middle of the woods, or a house like in the middle of the woods where there's nobody around. This whole movie really takes place at this one setting, and what do you know, one night, somebody decides they want to rob this house. And this movie actually has some great tension for a one-location horror film. It really builds up the sense of dread throughout this movie. Katie Siegel having a disability really lends itself to this movie. It's a fantastic horror film, one that absolutely should at least come to Blu-ray. You can see this movie being released by such studios as Scream Factory being a nice Blu-ray release, maybe not on 4K Blu-ray because it's not the highest of budget horror films. This was really Mike Flanagan still getting his feet wet in the early days of Mike Flanagan, mainly before a lot of his big movies and miniseries came out, and you can see that in the budget of this film, but still, it deserves a physical media release, and it really should be on something. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to watch this movie at all right now. It is very, very disappointing that streaming services will actually pull your movies, which will really show you the value of physical media, because you know what? They can't take that Blu-ray away from you, but they can definitely take it off of streaming.
You try to take this thing away from me, I'll sock you straight in the face.
I can tell you don't believe me, son. You're gonna have to try one. I don't want you leaving here thinking I'm a weirdo.
And then at number 9, we have Hulu's 2022 release of Fresh, another horror film that was directed by Mimi Cave, and it stars Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is a very underappreciated actor. Mainly people just know him from the MCU because he plays the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, so many people just know him as that character, who's a very quiet character, doesn't really have any flash to him. He's always mean-mugging on the camera. He's a very angry character, but when you see Sebastian Stan act in other stuff, like I, Tonya or Fresh, you notice that that guy has a lot of charm to him, he has a lot of range to him, and he's also a great actor. He could do much, much more than just mean mugging for the camera. The movie itself is just a, I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but it actually ends up being a cannibalism horror film, and you really don't see that coming throughout the movie. I mean, I guess they hint at it pretty early, but the way they build up to this movie is fantastic. It actually ends up being a great movie with a great performance in there by Sebastian Stan. One thing that always sticks out to me is Sebastian Stan singing Peter Cetera's Restless Heart.
Don't leave me here with my restless heart.
He's just so into it, and plus that song is fantastic. I always think about that scene even when I'm not watching the movie. It kind of just lives rent-free in my mind, but it's a fantastic scene, and it just shows you that Sebastian Stan really is a fantastic, underrated actor. I like to see him do more roles like this, and, you know, he can leave the MCU behind, in my opinion. I think he still has a pretty major role in that, but still. And when Sebastian Stan really gets to sink his teeth into a role, you really can tell that the guy is a great actor, and I would love to see him do more roles like this, and this is a movie that really should have come to Blu-ray. Again, Shout Factory, Scream Factory, this would be a perfect release release for them. Hulu, just give the rights to somebody, let them release it, because this movie, we have seen movies from Hulu, which is a streaming service owned by Disney, come to 4K Blu-ray. Last year, Prey was another big hit on Hulu that didn't get a physical media release. We asked for it, and they finally gave it to us in a fantastic 4K Blu-ray, by the way. So hopefully Hulu kind of got the message, and they will be releasing more under their 20th Century Films brand. You know, it is Disney, so we're kind of pulling teeth here. Disney doesn't really care too much about physical media, although I will be fair, they have gotten better recently. They've been adding back in stuff that they pulled from physical media because they really wanted people to sign up for Disney Plus and Hulu, and they've kind of been giving it back to the physical media audience, which makes all the sense in the world. Wouldn't you want the best of both worlds? Most people who buy physical media also pay for your streaming services. This way you could double up on the money, and you're making the physical media collectors happy. Seems like a win-win. Moving on to number 8.
We bury it. Later on, we come back and collect.
And that movie is 2020's Defy Blood, directed by Spike Lee. Spike Lee actually has kind of a troubled history in physical media. Some of his films have been released beautifully on physical media, like Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, and we just got School Days on 4K Blu-ray, which I haven't checked out yet. But a lot of his movies are just stuck on Blu-ray. Even some of them haven't really gotten the best of Blu-ray releases, like Clockers or The 25th Hour, which are some of his best movies that he's ever released. And those movies are just really stuck. Mo Better Blues. All of these movies are just stuck on either regular Blu-ray and a low-quality Blu-ray. And then movies like Defy Bloods, which came right to Netflix, was one of the best films of 2020. Had a great Delroy Lindo performance in there. Also, had a great Chadwick Boseman performance, and we didn't even know he was dying at the time, but still he gave a killer performance in this movie. A standout performance. Not as good of a performance as Delroy Lindo. He really carries this movie. A movie that's following around a group of Vietnam veterans who now have to regroup together all of these years later and try and find some buried treasure. Seems like a very simple movie, but it really is diving into what these men have gone through. They're all black soldiers, black Vietnam soldiers, what they actually had to go through, not just then, but what they're going through now, how their lives have changed since then. Also, they're passing away of their leader, who was played by Chadwick Boseman in this movie. They're talking all about that. This movie is a fantastic Spike Lee film, one that really deserves a physical media release, and we've seen them release some great Spike Lee movies. Again, the movie he did before this, Black Klansman, has a 4K Blu-ray release, but because this movie came out on Netflix, they didn't give us one. This is one I actually could see the Criterion Collection release. Criterion has released Spike Lee movies in the past, whether it be on Blu-ray or on 4K Blu-ray, so hopefully this is one of them that eventually does get a Criterion release. I could see them doing it, and I think it would be fantastic, and we all deserve that.
I can't! My head is in a bag!
I did have the FBI put that bag over your head.
And then at number 7, we got 2021's Don't Look Up, directed by Adam McKay. And this movie actually has very mixed reviews. Personally, I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's got a stacked cast, including Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. It includes Jonah Hill. And you even get Meryl Streep playing the president, basically riffing on what Trump was at the time in 2021 and how the world perceived him and how they kind of felt like he was leading this country into the future. This movie is really turning the mirror back on society and how we react to things like this, how we would react if a meteor was coming to Earth, how the media would portray it, how we would portray it. It's really looking at it from all angles, and of course this is a satire film, so it's also a comedy movie, and Adam McKay knows comedy. If you ever watched Anchorman, Talladega Nights, or the other guys, you know Adam McKay knows how to do comedy. Of course, he's really kind of been doing dramedies, really, with movies like The Big Short, Vice, and now this movie, and then he also was doing Winning Time on Max. So the guy knows how to combine drama and comedy. I think it really came to perfection in this movie. Is this movie as good as The Big Short? It's close. I really enjoyed Don't Look Up, and the ending to that movie actually scared the hell out of me. Every time I watch that movie, the ending actually really does get to me, and it also has a fantastic post-credit scene. And this is a movie I think would do fantastic on physical media. I think more people would come to this movie. When you send a movie like this that looks like it costs a lot of money with a stacked cast, this is the kind of movie that should be released on physical media. You can release this in a beautiful steelbook. Now, I don't know this is the kind of movie that Netflix would team up with the Criterion Collection for, and I don't think they've ever really teamed up with another studio. Maybe you release this directly like A24 does. A24 will release a lot of their movies directly on physical because they know that they don't have the biggest of audiences, but I do think this movie could be successful. Maybe Netflix wants to get in the physical media game. Hey, call me Netflix. I'll help you guys get that on the road. This is the kind of movie that deserves to come to physical media and would look great on 4K Blu-ray. And then at number 6 is actually a trilogy of movies that were released on Netflix in 2021, and that is the Fear Street trilogy. Now, all three of these movies came out within a few weeks of each other. There are 3 connected movies that tell one big story, so you're going to want them all together. And these movies all looked fantastic. They were well acted, featured some great characters. A bunch of characters actually appeared in Stranger Things, which is pretty funny because it's a Netflix series. And speaking of Stranger Things, they have actually had some physical media releases, some fantastic physical media releases for seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger Things. And I think maybe season 3, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely not season 4. And the Fear Street trilogy feels like that kind of throwback Netflix series of movies that people just loved at the time. These were a big hit. You know, like a lot of things in our modern world, they kind of came and went, but they were a big deal in a bubble at the time. People were loving these movies. They were looking forward to the next one. After the last one ended, they would have a trailer for the next one, and it would be about a week later until the other ones came out. But now that they're all out, I think a 4K Blu-ray release of this entire trilogy from Scream Factory would just be perfectly ideal. Will it happen? Probably not. Unfortunately, you'll probably still just be able to watch these on Netflix. But if Netflix ever shuts down, we'll never be able to revisit these Fear Street movies again, and I think they are great. I think they're timely horror movies. I think they have a great message to them. I think they're well shot, and some of the kills in these movies are just amazing and should be seen in beautiful 4K Blu-ray. They also sounded great. They had great audio design, so imagine that in an uncompressed version on a disc. All 3 of these movies are great, and I would love to see them on 4K Blu-ray. And then at number 5, and the reason why it's at number 5, even though I like this movie more than other movies, it's just because it just came out. I don't see it getting a 4K Blu-ray release, mainly because it's not being as well received as I had hoped it would, and that is Bradley Cooper's Maestro. This movie features 2 phenomenal performances by Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein, and then Carey Mulligan playing his wife Fiona in this movie. And I thought that they both gave standout performances for 2023. Unfortunately, I think they're both going to get overshadowed. A lot of people didn't love this movie as much as I love this movie. I thought this movie was one of the best films of the year. I've gone back to it numerous times. I enjoy every second of it. It's well acted. I love what they were doing with the changing aspect ratios, black and white to color. I just enjoyed all of that. It really was the kind of movie that I absolutely enjoyed. And now if this movie had done a little bit better, maybe it will do better around Academy season. But based on what happened at the Golden Globes and other award shows, I don't see it. So unfortunately, I think this is the kind of movie that will get stuck on Netflix. We did get his last movie, A Star Is Born, on 4K Blu-ray. This one, if we ever do get it, I imagine it would be through the Criterion Collection. I hope we do. I love Maestro. Would love to see an uncompressed version of this. And this is the kind of movie I would want in my collection, mainly because it's one that I will be going back to, and I don't want to have to load up Netflix to have to check this one out.
Let's get it, man.
And then at number 4, I know this one has no chance of ever coming to 4K Blu-ray, and that is They Clone Tyrone. This movie, first of all, got way overlooked last year. It came out on the same weekend as Barbenheimer, so with Barbie and Oppenheimer in theaters, nobody gave a shit about They Clone Tyrone, which came out on Netflix on July 21st as well. But I watched that movie. It stars Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, Teyonah Parris, and Kiefer Sutherland, so that's a pretty stacked cast. And the movie looked fantastic, and it tells like a Groundhog Day horror sci-fi story with a bunch of action in it, and I thought this movie was great. Not only is it timely, not only does it have great themes, has great messages, it looks fantastic. Like I said, the score is great, the music that's in this movie is great, the costume design is great. It feels like a higher budget movie than it probably is, but the movie is so well acted and builds up to a great conclusion that this is the kind of movie that would be perfect for the Shout Factory brand. Unfortunately, just like I was saying with Maestro, this movie wasn't that successful. It already feels like people forgot about this movie, which is a real shame because it was a great movie. You should check it out on Netflix. Even if you don't want to hear me talking about it coming to physical media, load up Netflix, check out They Clone Tyrone. It really was a great movie. I loved every second of it. I've gone back to it twice as well. This is one of those movies that's just a good time. You can turn it on, whatever. It's very rewatchable. This is the kind of movie I think if more people discover, it will build up a cult following, and that's the kind of movie that deserves a physical media release. Come on, Netflix, give us They Clone Tyrone.
I always want Mank around.
And then at number 3, this is kind of cheating because it is a tie between The Killer and Mank. Both of these movies were David Fincher's last films that he made and released on Netflix directly. Mank actually had a lot of Academy Award buzz. The Killer does not. I actually prefer The Killer over Mank, but I understand why Mank got more of the buzz. That movie is following around the guy who co-wrote Citizen Kane. It features a stacked cast like Gary Oldman in there. It's shot in beautiful and gorgeous looking black and white, which is, again, why I'm surprised that movie didn't get a Criterion Collection Collection team up. That's the kind of movie that the Academy loves. They actually also released Citizen Kane on 4K Blu-ray Criterion Collection, so you would think the perfect double feature would be Mank, then lead right into Citizen Kane. You can have them both on beautiful 4K Blu-ray. Criterion's already worked with Netflix. It's like a match made in heaven. Now, The Killer isn't that popular. I love that movie. I thought Michael Fassbender did a great job in the lead role. I thought that the movie itself, yes, it's a very contained and much smaller movie than we've seen David Fincher do more recently, but, you know, David Fincher has this great working relationship with Netflix. There's been rumors, and I hope these rumors are true, that Mindhunter does come back to Netflix. The first 2 seasons of that are some of the best 2 seasons on TV. Really felt like the kind of tone that Zodiac had, and I love Zodiac. But Mank and The Killer, those 2 movies really deserve a 4K Blu-ray release. Not only are they both well made because it's David Fincher, so you know that the technicals are all fantastic, and the audio design in The Killer is incredible. That movie, uncompressed, on 4K Blu-ray with a possible Dolby Atmos track would just be incredible. That movie deserves it, and I know that me and 12 other people probably only care about that one coming to 4K Blu-ray, but if you team it up with Mank, hey, we can get both of those, and then I can finally complete my David Fincher collection, because both of these haven't been released physically. I mean, David Fincher in general, a lot of his movies haven't come to 4K Blu-ray. We are getting 7, which will only be the second one behind The Social Network, which right now is actually locked behind the Columbia Classics Volume 2. So David Fincher and physical media haven't really worked out that well, so let's hope we can change that in 2024. I'm doubtful, but I'm very hopeful. And speaking of David Fincher, a guy who worked with David Fincher a lot, and this is my number 2, David Pryor's The Empty Man. This one was just sent out there to die. Nobody had faith in this movie. I don't even think it was actually sent out to a streaming service. It was actually just sent out there. You could pay for it at the time. Right now, it's on Hulu. It was on Max at a previous point. But you cannot buy this physically. It's never had a physical media release. People have been asking for a physical media release for this since it came out, including myself. There's a video here on the channel from 2022. I showed it to some people. They didn't like this movie, but I think The Empty Man is one of the best horror films to come out in years. Is it the most well-made movie? No. It looks great. It sounds great. It's very well acted, but it can feel like a Frankenstein's monster kind of a movie, where it just felt like David Pryor finally got money to make a movie, and he tried everything he could possibly try in this movie. So it's a very ambitious horror movie. You know, we have a big prologue before the movie really starts, and that prologue doesn't really pay off until the very end of the movie, but in my opinion, it pays off perfectly. And there's so much images in this movie that are just going to stick out to you, that are going to scare the hell out of you. This movie might be a little too long for some people, and I get that. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes, but again, ambitious horror film. You also get a great Stephen Root performance in this, popping up, scaring the hell out of you like he always does, because again, he's a great underappreciated actor. Because David Pryor worked with David Fincher for so long, you know he knows how to craft a movie, make the movie look great, probably get the most out of his budget. It sounds great. The score is great. I just love this movie. It actually has some pretty damn scary sound effects in this movie. Again, this movie is actually very, very scary, and I understand that it doesn't have the most coherent story, that you have to really think about it, and it kind of feels like stuff comes out of left field, and I understand that, but still, I think this movie is so ambitious. I love The Empty Man. This is one that deserves like an Arrow Video 4K Blu-ray release with all the bells and whistles, because it has built up quite a cult following. I'm surprised this hasn't come to 4K Blu-ray yet. I really am. And that, of course, brings us to number 1. For me, this is kind of a big deal, and I know a lot of people probably are going to be a little bit surprised at this one. They probably already forgot about it, but that is 2020's Palm Springs, that stars Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti. The two of them have great chemistry. Another Groundhog Day story. The Groundhog Day movie trope is one that not everyone loves, and they kind of feel like it's been overused and abused. For me, I love that when you're repeating the same day over and over, and in this movie, it happens to be in Palm Springs. Andy Samberg is already stuck in the time loop, but then you know what? He finally gets a companion played by Kristen Milioti, and she does a great job in this movie as well. Some great musical scenes in this film. One is them around the pool dancing and kind of just having fun to Barracuda, which I just love that scene as well. There's some great scenes at weddings. You know, they're kind of repeating the same thing, and it's in a nicer place than Groundhog Day. The comedy in this movie is just turned up to 10, and then it builds up to a great conclusion. And this movie was a big hit at the time. There was a bidding war for this movie. Hulu ended up winning it, which, you know what? It kind of seems like a curse, because that movie eventually just got sent right to Hulu in 2020. That was a big deal. Movies weren't being released in theaters, so it made sense for a streaming service to buy Palm Springs and release it on their streaming service and not in theaters, mainly because of the time movies just weren't coming out in theaters, so it made all the sense in the world. But it's been 4 years now, and this movie deserves a 4K Blu-ray release. It's a great movie. It looks great. I love watching this movie, rewatching this movie. It's a feel-good story. You know, we don't have too many of those in this world anymore, where movies just make you feel good and feel happy at the end, and this is one of those movies. And that's, of course, credited to not only the tone of this film, but the lead actors. They're both so charming. They're both so funny. They have great chemistry. It's a lighthearted film. None of the drama is taken too seriously in a movie like this. You also get a good J.K. Simmons performance in here. This is the movie that I want on 4K Blu-ray one of these days. Hopefully we'll get it. I know not everyone probably cares about this one, but I love Palm Springs. And can you imagine this movie with some premium packaging, all the colors and everything? Yeah, I would just eat that up. Release that this summer, please, somebody. I don't know who the studio would be. My best guess, if we ever got it, would be like Shout Factory, Arrow Video, but let's get our fingers crossed on this one. And I want to hear from you guys. And you know what? It is Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. If you happen to be new to the channel, we do this every single week on Friday's video. I ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you have to do is answer one of those questions in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to this Monday's video. I put your name on a magic wheel. I spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And like I said, I wanted to hear from you guys. What is a movie that you want that's stuck on streaming to come to physical media? And then, you know what? We're talking a bunch of different types of movies. I just want to know from you guys, what is your favorite genre of film? I just want to know what kind of genre of film really tickles your fancy. Is it comedy? Is it horror? It doesn't really matter. Let me know what it is in the comment section below. I'm just very curious because for me, my favorite genre has always been sci-fi horror. But it's always, drama always kind of sneaks up on it. But, I always don't think about it. Like, drama's always right there. But if I had my choice, I'm always going to want to put on a sci-fi horror film. Those always have spoke to me. They always have, like, the bigger message while also telling some pretty damn scary and gory stories. Or science fiction just tells some fantastic stories. One day I'm going to do for you guys a top 10 list of the most underrated sci-fi movies. Because I've seen a bunch of junk sci-fi movies, or at least get labeled junk sci-fi movies, that turn out to be fantastic. So one day I'll do that list for you guys. But let me know the answers to those questions in the comment section below, and then don't forget to come back to this Monday's video where we'll put your name on the magic wheel and we'll see if you are a lucky winner. And if you guys want to join channel memberships, we are going to be doing a giveaway here on the channel for all of our channel members each and every single month. We have a Friends of the Tier channel, we have a Producers channel where you can find John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, Nocturnal, and Mr. Smelly Potato. And we also have a director here on the channel, a director's tier, and right now Frank's Media and Reviews. You can go check out his YouTube channel right now, and I recommend that you do. He's right now our channel director. Our channel directors have their choice review each and every single month, but no matter what tier you choose to be under, you will be entered into our monthly giveaway, and this month we actually have choices for you guys. If you win, you'll have your choice of either Waterworld on 4K Blu-ray in this beautiful Arrow video set, Thor Love and Thunder 4K Steelbook, or The Lost Boys on 4K Blu-ray. So whoever's this month's lucky winner from our channel memberships, they'll have their choice of these 3 movies. The other 2 will carry over till next month. But if you got no money to throw our way, don't you guys worry about it. The best way to continue to support this channel is just by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, turning notifications on, then just getting out in those streets and telling your friends about us. And then after you're done doing all of that, we'll be seeing you around.